What's up, guys? We're gonna be reviewing Little Nightmares. We just ran credits, rolled credits on the base game, and maybe when did we do that? 2 days ago, 3 days ago, we rolled credits on base game, and today we rolled credits on the DLC, Secrets of the Maw. So it's fresh in our heads. You can watch all of the videos for the live stream on this channel if you just go to playlist. So the criteria we're gonna be rating it on today is the story, visuals and art, sound design and music, gameplay mechanics, pacing and progression, emotional and psychological impact. So let's start with story. Um, I think story for me was hard to tell. After finishing the main game and the DLC, I don't know what happened. I think there is a really cool lore in the game. I think there is definitely some weird stuff going on, really cool characters, really cool environments. I just don't know if the game was very clear uh, in portraying what the story was. Because if you told me to tell you the story from the beginning to the end, I wouldn't know where to start, to be honest. You didn't get much story at all, Heather? Yeah, exactly. Um, if I were to try my best, girl has hunger issues. She's on a boat. Things are trying to capture her. I don't know. There were so many like nuanced, really unique ideas. Just none of them were portrayed clearly. Um, so I think for that reason, story, I would give it 4 out of 10. 4 out of 10 for story because it was cool concept. The world was cool. I think there was very cool characters. I think there was a very interesting plot. I just don't know how any of them are related to each other. So 4 out of 10, 3 out of 10 for you. That's fair. That's fair. 3 out of 10 is fair. Yeah, 4 out of 10 for me, just because I feel like the ideas were cool. They just weren't presented clearly. Visuals and art direction. Uh, the visuals were amazing, honestly. I think it looked like a blend of like Nightmare Before Christmas, some Coraline. Um, it was a really cool world. The whole thing took place on a boat. Um, I would say the visuals was probably my favorite part. It's just everything looked really cool, and then sometimes the camera would like pan out and like you see how tiny you are in the grand scheme of this huge like boat. It was the most exciting part for me for sure. The lighting and shadows, all the dark areas. I think some of the areas were too dark, but I think for the most part, the lighting and shadows were used effectively to kind of create, creepy tension and just make it a very very suspenseful game. I remember one time, and this happened in today's playthrough, but in the DLC, you're walking in a dark hall where you turn the flashlight on, and then all of a sudden you run into the blindfolded monster, and it's like, oh my god, he's there. So visual and art direction is really really cool. Um, the enemies were awesome. My favorite enemies, I think, were the chefs. Those were really cool. Um, I would say the enemies or the monsters were very very particular and unique, and I like that. Um, it was amazing. Yeah, I really liked the visual art direction. I would say visual art direction 8 out of 10 for me. Oh, Heather too, 8 out of 10. Yeah, 8 out of 10. I think 8 out of 10 is the number for me. It was fire. It was fire. Sound design and music. I don't remember any of the songs, but I don't think or the music. I don't remember much of the music, but I do remember that everything felt immersive. Um, Sometimes there was no music. There was very little sound effects. Uh, Sometimes there were creepy like little ambient things, and I do think I do think the music was very well done. Not the music, but the ambience and the sound design. I think the music was meant to be a little more minimal for this game, and I think it did a good job. Definitely helped with the suspense. I don't think I had any issues with the music. I would say no notes. I can't think of a time when I didn't disliked what was going on sound wise. So I would give this a pretty high score. I would give it a 7 out of 10. Wow, Heather and me on the same page. When you died was the most exciting part of it for the sound. Oh yeah, like the sound of the death cutscene. Yeah, I would say 7 out of 10 too. It was solid. It did its job. I don't think it was like amazing, amazing. I think Elden Ring is close to like a 10 out of 10 for me music wise. I'll give it 7 out of 10. Um, let's see. Gameplay mechanics. Oh, this is a hard one. Um, okay, so I would say base game. I really did like the design of the levels and stuff. Um, I think that this was my first real puzzle platformer game. I would say I'm going through Ocarina of Time right now, which is kind of like a puzzle game. But this is the first time where everything was like puzzles. And in the base game, I think everything was you were able to figure it out. There were a few times when I had to look up how to figure it out. I think there was like two times in the main game. Um, there was, but and I think a lot of sometimes it was like, and this is a problem I think with the game design, is like the TV. I remember the TV in particular. I had to look it up because I had tried to touch the TV, but I hadn't like held the stick for long enough, and it didn't work. So I had to look it up, and I was like, oh yeah, it is a TV. So I had to go back, and then I had to like hold the right trigger or something longer, and I got confused because of that. So I think maybe if it had just been a button, I think it would have been much better. And maybe that's on my fault because I didn't understand how some of the buttons worked. I think in the beginning I was more confused with the puzzles because I will say this is my first puzzle platformer, so I was a little out of my element. But I think as the game went on, I was able to figure out things and look at the clues better. So um, I think the base game did the puzzles very very efficiently and well for me. It was challenging, but it was also very very easy to figure out. Not easy, but like it was I was able to figure things out. Rough for you because you weren't the one that played it. That's true. That's true. I would say the mechanics sometimes were kind of off. It is a it's 3D, but it's from like the view of you looking at it like as if um I don't know the exact technical terms, but you're basically looking at it like a cross section. Like basically you cut the world and you're looking at it from like this. So sometimes the depth perception was hard. There was a lot of times I was falling off platforms because I couldn't like see the depth of the game. So sometimes those kind of moments were uh, kind of difficult. I would dock some points for that. Um, Also, I wish I had known to use the camera button. So the right analog stick controls the camera. I don't think that was explicitly stated to use in the game. I feel like if the game had some kind of thing in the beginning where it forced me to use the camera so I could know that I could use it. I didn't use the camera for probably the first 2 3 levels, and it was a very helpful mechanic that I wish I had known about earlier. So that's another thing that I had uh, some issues with. Now, if we come to the DLC, um, what I did like about the DLC is that they try to introduce new ideas, like a water mechanic, the gnome mechanic. Um, the third level, I'm not even sure what they're trying to introduce. I just feel like the DLC, it was kind of rushed, if that makes sense. Like the main game felt like everything was super polished. The level designs were, meant to be super nuanced. In the DLC, the gnome mechanic was gimmicky. Like a lot of times I was trying to do stuff and I would pick up a gnome instead of trying to interact with the box, or I would be trying to push a card and the gnome would get in the way. I just feel like it wasn't as play tested. Maybe it wasn't very. It wasn't designed in a way that made it very nuanced is the best way. There was just like stuff that was annoying, and that could have probably been solved and play tested and programmed better. Um, as well, I think the last level, I hated that level. And if you watch the VOD, I'm just raging the whole time looking up shit. It's just, I feel like they made that level just to like, I don't know what the thought was behind that. It's like nothing was nothing was like hinted at. It's like just random things you had to do. And I guess if you spent enough time in that room, which is like you're basically in the queen's apartment or house, whatever, residence, and you're trying to figure out how to get these statues. And I guess if you spend enough time in that room, you could figure it out. I just didn't care to like just do random things until I figured things out. Like it's so weird, you know. You got a 6 out of 10 for this part. Okay. It didn't make any sense. It was just random. It wasn't as like progressive as the other ones, or the progression wasn't so linear. It felt like a random open world type level, but like this game doesn't. The open world concept doesn't work for this game because you know just having random things be puzzle pieces is so stupid. Um, and maybe it would have been fun if I wanted to take my time and figure things out. I just feel like this for this level, it was more annoying than anything. So gameplay, damn. For because of the gimmicky controls, I would dock the gimmicky controls and some of the camera limitations. I would probably dock 2 points, so that takes us to an 8 out of 10. Um, the DLC, the first level, the water level, I absolutely loved. But the latter two levels were really annoying. So I would dock 2 more points for the other two. So 6 out of 10 for gameplay. Oh, Heather, we on track to do the same score, more or less. Pacing and progression. I would say the main game was it felt short. It felt short. I think it was meant to be like climactic in the middle, climactic. So like the kitchen was the most exciting level, right? And then after that, it just felt kind of like, oh, we're just riding out to the end. Um, the levels didn't feel distinct in the main game, but it's fine because it does feel like one continuous level basically. just in different areas. It was very short. I would say the DLC uh, makes it the length that it should be. It's just that the DLC was horrible for the second two levels. If the DLC had been like the water level and then introduced the other mechanics in a more uh, seamless way, it would have been nice. It was very fun that the DLC explored areas uh, not seen in the base game and kind of reintroduced some of the story elements. Um, so the main game, I did think there was a good curve. You know, it was kind of calmer in the beginning, super intense in the kitchen, and then kind of rides out at the end. So I think the main game was short but well paced. DLC was kind of a mess. If the DLC was good, it would have been a perfect game length, I think. But you know, it wasn't the case. Uh, I wouldn't replay this to 100% it. I really don't care enough. Um, so pacing, same. That's awesome. Yeah, yeah. Main game definitely short. Yeah, I would say pacing and progression for this game. We'll give it. Oh, the DLC ruined it for me. I'll give it a 5 out of 10. Damn, I thought the DLC was gonna help the score, but it really did make it worse. 6 out of 10 for you? Okay. Oh my god. It was a 6 out of 10 before the DLC. Emotional and psychological impact. Does it induce genuine dread or jump scares? I liked it. I liked that it wasn't really jump scares. It was more like, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, and it was very very suspenseful. I loved running away from things. That was one of my favorite parts of the game, just running away from shit. When when hordes of like these monsters were chasing you, like that was awesome. So there was times it was amazing. Um, Honestly, I didn't mind the quieter parts because the quieter parts they give you time to kind of take your time and figure out puzzles and stuff. So that was fun. Um, yeah, I like that they gave you time to chill out, figure out puzzles, and then they would turn up the tension again. I didn't think there was anything wrong with the pacing because there's basically three types of uh, sequences. There was either you're by yourself, you're figuring out a puzzle, you're running away from things, or you're sneaking through things. And I think they're all balanced and they all did their job, and they were all very enjoyable. So I like that. Um, Themes and subtext. I'm sure there are if you think about it, if you go deeper into it. There's probably stuff about masochism and gluttony and stuff. Uh, I just I don't think they were very obvious to me. I can't even think of many off top head, so I'm not sure about that. Um, I think the characters are super memorable. I think that the chefs, the blind toy maker. Uh, Honestly, interestingly enough, I think the queen was kind of the more forgettable character, even though she was the final boss. Something about it, the interaction with her was just kind of maybe because she wasn't like chasing you and like giving you a sense of dread so often. But I think the queen was kind of eh, forgettable as a character to me. I loved everyone else though, like the water boss, even the random the guests that are like just eating at the restaurant and consuming everything. Those guys are super cool design too. So I actually like this aspect of the game. Honestly, emotional and psychological impact. I would put this at an 8. I would put this at an 8. So we'll see what the final score is. We're gonna average all the points together. You got a 7 out of 10. I give it an 8. Let's see what the average is for me. Damn, I gave it a 6.3 out of 10. Final score 6.3 out of 10. Um, I guess I don't disagree with that score. I think that's probably what I'll give it. Probably like a 6 out of 10. Uh, okay, that is the score, guys. 6.3 out of 10. I think it has strengths, had some weaknesses. I think the DLC honestly brought it down a few notches for me. I think it would have been probably closer to a 7 if not for the DLC. But it is what it is. I gave it 6.3 out of 10. Let me know what you guys think of the game in the comments. And thanks for watching the video. I appreciate y'all.